Without further ado, I'll call to order the Ferguson Township Board of Supervisors meeting for Tuesday, February 17th. To order, please rise as you're able and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. And at this time, I'll recognize the Assistant Township Manager for Public Works to provide our meeting procedures and to call the roll.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to the members of the board, staff, and the public for joining us this evening for the February 17th, 2026 Ferguson Township Board of Supervisors regular meeting. This meeting has been properly advertised in accordance with the Pennsylvania Sunshine Act as a hybrid meeting with the option to attend virtually and in person here in the main meeting room. If you were in attendance virtually using the WebEx platform and wish to speak on behalf of an agenda item, please say your name, municipality of residence, and the topic you wish to speak on when the chair calls on you. If you are attending in person with us in the main meeting room and wish to speak on behalf of an agenda item, please address the board at the podium and state your name, municipality of residence, and the topic you wish to speak on. Members of the public attending using the WebEx platform are asked to remain muted during the meeting to prevent any ambient noise from disrupting the meeting. If a member of the public is acknowledged by the chair, they may unmute their microphone for their question or comment. Secondly, board members are asked to indicate their name when motioning or seconding a motion so that the minutes may accurately reflect the action taken. Finally, a roll call of the Board of Supervisors will now be taken to ensure that all members can hear and interact using the WebEx meeting platform. Please indicate that you are here when your name is called. Mr. Thompson.
Here.
Mr. Patterson.
Here.
Ms. Stevens.
Here.
Mr. Heller.
Here.
Mr. White.
Here.
Chair, you have a quorum.
Right, thank you. Did any board members have any changes or additions to the agenda they wanted to bring forward? Okay, seeing none. Announcements and proclamations. Well, that's done. Next up will be public comment. This will be time for the public to speak on items that are not on tonight's agenda. We ask you to keep your remarks to 5 minutes and to state your name and municipality of residence when addressing the board at the podium. We'll start first here in the room. I believe Mr. Keogh is up.
Okay. These are not my notes.
Oh, okay.
Dear Lord.
Bill Keogh, Ferguson Township resident. In the May-June timeframe of 2025, the board presented for both their own and public comment, plus 2 special public hearings on the 2026 through 2030 capital improvement plan for Ferguson Township. The document was one of the more comprehensive CIPs I've ever seen in close to 40 years of working with the township in one capacity or another. And it is a critical component to the 2026 township budget discussion. However, the document is not, in my opinion, public or user-friendly and takes several hours to read through. The board meets the sunshine requirements by placing the document on the township website for public review and comment. However, we wonder when we have the hearings that there's nobody in the room except you all and maybe me. For the average person reading this and studying the document of 191 pages, i.e., here we go, this document, in the electronic format is not easy. Therefore, a township resident must decide to either print all 191 pages at home, not likely, or request a hard copy from the township at a cost to the resident of around $9.50. Or they've got a third choice and they just don't bother about it at all. We don't see them at the meetings. They don't communicate with us. And unfortunately, that seems to be the ongoing choice of most of the residents of Ferguson Township about a process that represents a significant part of our annual budget. I'm requesting that the board and the staff visit the option of creating an executive summary of the 2027 CIP. I mentioned this back when we did the 226 one and indicated that I felt that we need to try and engage the residents in this particular document and the function it serves in the budget preparation. But using this document as their source is not working. And if we don't change how we do it, we won't change the outcome. I'd like to see us develop an executive summary of the full CIP that becomes more user-friendly, more resident-friendly, and identifies the kind of data that we feel that the residents probably could use best. I believe that when we had that discussion, Supervisor Strickland and myself both volunteered to be part of a committee involving staff and or board that addresses the executive summary process and help to identify and help the manager identify the kind of data that probably would be best served in the executive summary to get the outcome that we are hoping for, i.e. more township resident participation. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you for that feedback, Bill. And I know there has been something that a few residents have mentioned, just having some sort of communications to help maybe better dissect or understand some of the more lengthy documents. I will also add, we do offer public Wi-Fi here, and I have no problem with people using electronic devices when they come to the meetings, as long as they're silent and don't interrupt. But that is a way if you want to be able to follow along with materials, because I understand it does sometimes get costly to request prints, but I think something for further discussion later down the road. So let's go online. Anyone online for public comments? Take another look in the room. Seeing none, I'll close public comment. And next up will be the approval of the minutes. Pending no corrections, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
This is Patty, so moved.
And do we have a second?
Mr. Trevor, I'll second.
Okay, got a motion by Ms. Stevens, seconded by Mr. White. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed say no. Motion passes. Reports and presentations for our diversity, equity, inclusionary activities and acknowledgements. February is Black History Month. Today was the start of Mardi Gras, as well as the Lunar New Year, and Ash Wednesday will be tomorrow. Next up will be the department reports, and I'll recognize the manager to present any highlights they might want to share with us, or even take any questions from the board. Don't have it? All right. Sorry.
I'm sorry.
Sorry. Stu, my best. There's no questions on the department reports, but was there anything you or the staff wanted to highlight?
Well, just would like to keep the board and the public informed of the recruitment process for the next township manager. Our latest report, which was from Friday, there have been 27 applications submitted so far for the position. They continue to do recruitment for the position and doing outreach to potential candidates from around the country. It will remain open until February 27th. Community surveys are closed as of February 6th. There was 113 community residents who submitted surveys and 29 employees who submitted surveys. We're working with Charlene from MGT to get a summary of those surveys. That will be the next thing I would expect to be able to come to the board either later this week or certainly hopefully by Monday. So that's the latest update on the manager recruitment.
Okay. Any questions?
Couple of very probably minor ones. From a planning and zoning, I saw there were a few kind of snow warnings, but I saw like throughout the township there were some areas that there was probably a little bit more than a warning necessary, or maybe a third. I think there's probably some stuff that's just now melting in those crosswalks, where folks are trying to walk in their neighborhoods. I guess, did we get a fair number of Citizen Request Center notes, and were we able to address them timely, or?
We did. We were able to address them very timely. Of course, the way the ordinance is written is the first time you have a violation, a warning is required. So when the first time you have a substantial snow like we had 2 weeks ago, there are going to be warnings. Those properties have, those 11 warnings, I think was the number in the report, those 11 warnings have had their warning for the snow season. And there are also properties that after the warning, our ordinance enforcement officer went back to make sure that they had corrected the situation. Admittedly, with the way a lot of it was ice and just very thick, it was difficult if you didn't get to it early. But there was at least some pathway allowed for people to walk, and I do know that we were able to keep up with the complaints that we received. Those also will be properties that we'll be checking in future snowstorms where we've already given warnings.
Fantastic, thank you, sir. On the public works, I know it's been a couple of months now since the fiber stopped work, and it says we're working with them. Is that, I guess, is there anything else to share other than you guys are still just having conversations about?
Yeah, I would defer to the assistant manager for public works.
Yeah, there's been no update from Chantel Glow Fiber at this point. We continue to meet with them whenever they request, and we'll keep working with them whenever they are up and running again and plan to get back on site. So more to follow on that, but nothing at the moment.
Okay, so they still have the action to kind of document how they're going to do that, or type of a thing, maybe?
Yeah, they're working on some scheduling at this point.
Okay. And then on the police side, I was sad to see that we just had like a couple of stuff in the paper, and I see that we had a rape up here in the month of January. Oh, that's 2025. Sorry, thank you. Thank you. Cancel that. We're down year. That was the second thing. We're down year over the year, but the fact that it's 1610, is that just more? Is that it's not? There's no. Are there any trends that you're seeing year over year or month to month in your report?
Yeah, not yet. Not that I'm seeing.
Okay.
Things look a little bit down, but it's so early in the year. It's so early in the year, and with the weather, it's just kind of what I would expect.
Okay. All right. Very good. Thank you. That's all from me, Mr. Chair.
All right. If no one else, we'll go to new business. Excuse me. Tonight's consent agenda, we have a special event permit for the Center Volunteers in Medicine Central Cycling Classic, a special event permit for the Overlook Heights Block Party, an authorization to submit a letter of support requested by the Center County MPO for construction on Atherton Street, Phase 4 between Westerly Parkway and University Drive, and the 2026 C14 Street Tree Planning Contract Proposal. Any board members wanted to pull any of those items?
I'll pull B.
Yep, I was gonna pull B. Anything else? All right, can I have a motion to approve consent agenda items A, C, and D?
This is Trevor, so moved.
And do we have a second?
This is Matt, I'll second.
Okay, got a motion by Mr. White, second by Mr. Heller. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed say no. Next item will be the special event permit for the Overlook Heights Block Party. Can I have a motion to pass that one?
I just pulled it because it's mine and I'm going to recuse myself from voting.
Okay.
They're the applicants, so they will be,
Sorry.
This is Matt, I move that the special event permit for Overlook Heights Block Party be approved.
all right, got a motion by Mr. Patterson, second by Mr. Heller. Any discussion on that? It's gonna say the familiar,
Seen it.
yeah, just to familiarize Trevor when, somebody wants to do a community event or shut down a street or something, they go through the township and then we sign off on them, so just routine procedure. So all those in favor of approving this item, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say no. All right, motion passes with Patty recusing herself. And that will move us to 7.2, a discussion and authorization to post a legal advertisement for a public hearing on a conditional use application to allow storage of land clearing material in the rural agriculture RA district located at 2850 Ernest Lane. And I will recognize the manager.
The township received an application submitted by Pentair Engineering, Inc. for a conditional use application to allow the storage for land clearing material in the rural agricultural RA zoning district located at 2850 Ernest Lane with the tax parcel number 24-003-007M, 000 and 24-003-007R, 000. The anticipated Board of Supervisors date of a hearing for conditional use is March 3rd, 2026. The parcels combined are 51.56 acres. No structures are proposed and no additional impervious surface area is proposed. The overall proposal is an expansion of an existing fill pile. Separately, a preliminary land development plan has been submitted and is under staff review prior to the review by the Township Planning Commission and Board of Supervisors. Both the preliminary land development plan and the conditional use requests are anticipated to be reviewed by the Planning Commission on February 23rd and presented to the Board of Supervisors on March 3rd, 2026. The Board of Supervisors recommended that the Board of Supervisors authorize advertisement of a public hearing for a conditional use to occur on March 3rd, 2026.
All right, if there are no questions, can I have a motion to, yes, Mr. Patterson, go ahead.
I understand that the item is just to advertise the public hearing. But this is a conditional use, so there's planning commission, board need to say, yep, we're good with this conditional use. Have there been any preliminary community outreach on this?
I will defer to the planning director, Kimberly Smith.
The planning commission meeting is the 23rd, so that
Okay.
would be the opportunity for the community to give some input.
Okay, so no one's emailed early saying, hey, I don't want another fill in my neck of the woods type of a thing, or?
We've had a few inquiries, like, what is this, that
what
kind
is
of
it?
thing,
Okay.
and then we give our usual answer of what the process is.
Okay, thank you.
I was gonna say, this is where the berm is on Old Gatesburg. I was gonna say, if I'm not mistaken, there have already been some people voicing concerns about that, so are we, so the 23rd will be the opportunity for people to address, okay.
Yes, Kim?
But just to offer clarification, so the planning commission is intended to be the opportunity, kind of like the neighborhood forum,
Gotcha.
the chance to
Perfect.
formulate before the public hearing, before you. So.
Right. Definitely would encourage planning commission participation because then that helps them to bring a recommendation forward for us to take into consideration. So it's not like the decision's being made last minute, without that input being taken into consideration, so. Any other questions? If not, I would entertain a motion to advertise for the public hearing.
This is Matt. I move that the Board of Supervisors authorize advertisement of a public hearing for a conditional use to occur on March 3rd, 2026.
And do we have a second?
Mr. Trevor, I'll second.
Okay, got a motion by Mr. Heller, second by Mr. White. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed say no. All right, next up will be the public hearing on a conditional use application to allow an additional dealership building and automated car wash in the general commercial commercial overlay district, the COD, and the industrial I zoning district located at 1703 West College Avenue on tax parcel 24-004-015. And I will recognize the manager.
Pentair Engineering, Inc., on behalf of Blaze Alexander Family Limited Partnership, is requesting a conditional use to allow for the construction of a second retail auto dealership and associated car wash within the area of the property zoned industrial. The property is within the general commercial, corridor overlay, and industrial zoning districts. The property's existing uses are a car dealership building and a body shop, and is located at 1703 West College Avenue. On February 9th, 2026, the Planning Commission voted unanimously to recommend to the Board of Supervisors that the conditional use be approved. Provided with the agenda is the Planning Commission's packet and related minutes. Separately, a preliminary land development plan was reviewed by staff, considered by the Planning Commission, and will be presented to the Board of Supervisors for approval. The plan is proposing the construction of a second 22,983 square foot car dealership and associated 3,426 square foot car wash with related modification requests and conditions. And this is a public hearing.
All right, this is a public hearing, so open the floor for any public comment. Starting in the room, seeing none, anyone online? I will then close the public hearing. And if the board has no questions, I take a motion.
I'll get there. I'm sorry. I was actually reading up on one of the things. I can go back to the top, make it easy. Apologies. 1 second.
Take your time.
There we go. Okay. So this is Matt, and I move that the Board of Supervisors approve the conditional use application.
And did we have a second?
This is Patty, I'll second.
Okay, got a motion by Mr. Heller, second by Ms. Stevens. Any
Roll call.
discussion on this?
I apologize. This is the one with the parking change. Or is it the next
The
one?
reduction in parking sizes, or
Yes.
parking lots,
Yes.
spaces, whatever.
All right. Yeah. So I had one question just on the parking side. Was just what is the basis for the reduction? Is there a? I know there's a book, from some last century that says here's why you should calculate that number, and that made it into all the codes across the world. So what was the basis for the decrease for this particular parcel?
And I'm going to defer to the planning director there, and I believe there's a request, one for the dealership with the bays, a reduction, and also the car wash, there's also a reduction. So I'm not sure if you're asking for both or one.
Well, all the above. Yeah. Anytime we reduce,
Right.
I think
Yep.
as we start let me background context. I am for reducing some of these requirements. It doesn't make sense to have 1,000 parking spaces for a certain space anymore, based on old news, which was this is out in the middle. Everybody drives now. Those types of things. We've got remote work. We've got those types of things. So I just want to make sure, what's the basis we're using for this reduction, and I just understand that, and just as we are doing this, to be consistent with everybody that comes
Absolutely.
before us for the same.
And I just want to make sure both were covered for your information.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay,
Good call.
and a couple of things, while that is related to the use, this is the conditional use itself. The land development plan which follows is what includes the waivers, or excuse me, the modifications related to the parking. So I can preliminarily answer, we also do have the applicant here, but then we'll discuss it again for your actual vote. What you're voting on now is the conditional use. Your vote on the modification itself will be on the next case. And part of the reasons for the reductions, one, being an automated car wash, the idea is you won't get out of your car, so your car will be moving. There was discussion at the Planning Commission level about what about maintenance, and it was determined if it's to that level, the whole thing will be shut down. So there is that piece. For bays, 3 per bay versus 6 is not unusual. So most of these modifications are based on the fact that it's an automated car wash. It is your choice if you want to also call up the applicant, but I also wanted to differentiate between the two cases.
Copy. So I think in all of this, as we start, what I didn't want to do is have, be not in favor of the mods and then approve a conditional use. And I'm not saying that, I'm just saying that that's going to set somebody up for failure. I don't want to do that. So that's why I'm asking the question now. Thank you.
Mr. Heller.
I didn't see if this was a public car wash. Is it a public car wash?
I think the,
Or is it a car wash in the dealership?
It was the planning commission.
I
notes,
looked
like somebody
for it,
asked that
but
question. They said yes.
Yeah, so the nuance is, and this was said at Planning Commission, it wouldn't be there if it wasn't for the dealership, but it is open to the public.
Okay.
So it's a dealership adding a car wash versus a car wash looking for a dealership. That makes
thank
sense.
you. I've just seen dealerships that have their own car wash that's for their cars when they detail them, but that's not this. This is specifically for the public.
Correct, and that was part of why you saw so much on traffic.
Perfect. Thank you.
Mr. White?
I was gonna say, I have some questions that would probably, I actually don't know if it's the right form. I'm just more curious about, the thought processes behind expanding this, because I've seen, and this is kind of like a broad question, so I'm just curious there, because Stuckey's got, overflow behind the Dollar General. So are we expecting an increase in demand here? I'm just curious and would love to know more about that. But if this is also not the right venue for that question, I'm happy to
I think
ask it later.
Yeah.
if the chair.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
I'm good if everyone's good. Otherwise, normally we would, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Apologies. So I'm just curious because my wife, for context, my wife and I bought a Hyundai from one of the Blaze branches out in Muncie. So I was curious, is this like a consolidation and bringing more things into the State College or Center region, or is this just splitting up? Is this because we're expecting future demand? Again, I'm just curious about the thought process.
Sure. I'm John Sepp from Pentair Engineering, representing Blaze Alexander. The reduction in parking is primarily for the requirement for the body shop parking. The township ordinance requires 6 parking stalls per bay. The Blaze Alexander family has, I believe, 18 dealerships, and their experience has determined from their observation over the many years that they've been in business that they really need half of that amount for the body shop. But what we've done with this plan is we have an area reserved for parking that would meet the township criteria. And Blaze Alexander Family Dealership is prepared to post a bond to pave that parking lot should, after 1 year in operation, it is determined that they need additional parking. But they don't want to have to pave right now and then have a big open parking lot that's not being used, especially the fact that the area where the parking is going to be located could be a location for another future dealership in the future, possibly. So it would just be paving a lot that's not being used, that's going to have to be torn up in the future. But by the fact that they are willing to post a surety and provide the space, should they need it, I believe the township's covered either way. Should, for whatever reason, they require more parking than they anticipate.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions or discussion? If not, I will recognize the manager to call the roll.
Chair Thompson,
Yes.
Vice Chair Patterson,
Yes.
Ms. Stevens,
Yes?
Mr. Heller,
Yes.
Mr. White.
Yes.
Passes unanimously.
All right. Next up, we have the preliminary land development plan to allow an additional dealership building and automated car wash in the general commercial overlay district and the industrial zoning district located at 1703 West College Avenue, tax parcel 24-004-015, and I will recognize the manager.
Provided with the agenda is the Blaze Alexander Hyundai preliminary development plan dated October 10th, 2025, and revised January 5th, 2026, submitted by Pentaterra Engineering, Inc. on behalf of Blaze Alexander Family Limited Partnership. The proposed development is located at 1703 West College Avenue at the tax parcel just mentioned. 20.576 acres and is zoned general commercial, corridor overlay, and industrial zoning districts. The plan is proposing the construction of a second 22,983 square foot dealership and associated 3,426 square foot car wash with related modification requests and conditions. The additional dealership would be accessed through a shared use driveway on Old Block Road, currently being improved by the approved Rudder Convenience Store development. On February 9th, 2026, the Planning Commission voted unanimously to recommend to the Board of Supervisors that the proposed preliminary land development plan be approved with the following modifications and conditions. And in your packet, and in the packet online, is a list of 4 modifications, as well as 3 conditions that were approved by the Planning Commission unanimously and sent to the Board of Directors.
All right. Imagine this sounds familiar, but take a moment if anyone had any questions. Yes, Mr. Patterson.
Yeah, the vacuum spaces to 0, that's because there's no vacuums, or just, maybe I missed that somewhere, but it was the number 4 in the mods. Four spaces per van, one per vacuum to 0 spaces.
Per vacuum to 0 spaces.
So I know the car wash is automated, so bring that down. And there's no vacuums. Okay, all right, thank you. That's the clarification I was looking for. There was one more question. You said something earlier. You said the Alexander with the mini dealerships, they kind of use their experience.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, if we could just ask
Sorry,
Mr. Shep to come up to the microphone, please.
Yes, sir. Oops. I guess that's a little concerning. It's the experience. I love the experience. How about that? But I think, can we point in being consistent with granting a mod? Are we always going to point to experience? And if the answer is no, then we've got to reconcile that today. Quite frankly.
Are you talking about for parking?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. To bring the parking down from 6 to 3, and we're like, oh well, it's based on this particular applicant's experience. I'm going to have then all applicants' experiences for me, because I want consistency. I want to be consistent, I should say. This is me speaking for myself. If that's how we're going to roll, then okay, then we're going to do that consistently. I'm going to do that consistently. So I would love to hear if there's something else that we can hearken to and kind of point to say, their experience is great, and we also know something else. And so I'll pause there for Mr. Manager.
Yeah, I think the applicant's experience would be considered, but I don't think it would be the only thing that we would use going forward. I think it's part of the totality of all of the facts that would lead us to whether or not there should be a conditional a modification approved or not. In this case, I'll turn to Mr. Sepp or the planning director to say what else, if there was anything else that led them to say this is the right way, this is acceptable. Thanks.
Primarily, it's been their experience, and it isn't that they just have one or two other dealerships. They have 18 dealerships where they've had in a number of years to witness that. It's interesting that the parking regulation used to be in the zoning ordinance up until about 4 years ago, in which if we wanted to amend the parking requirement, we would have had to have gone to the zoning hearing board and proved the hardship in order to get the variance, which is a very difficult task. The township interestingly removed it from the zoning, put it in subdivision land development, which allows for modifications. And I wasn't part of the process that resulted in that, but I would imagine that part of the reason was to permit flexibility for situations such as this. But I think what should make the board comfortable, again, is there is room on the site. We have a parking lot designed that, and there will be money put in escrow with the township to guarantee, should that extra parking ever be required, whether 10% of it, 50%, or 100%, the developer will pay the parking lot, and the modification, for all intents and purposes, would be moot at that point.
Additionally, the 3 per bay is closer to the industry norm that I'm also used to. And I was just looking up to make sure I call it the correct thing, but the ITE, it's the, it just moved on me.
Traffic engineering.
Yes,
group, yeah,
manual.
okay.
So there are standards.
That's all for me, thank you.
Mr. Howell.
I just find humor in the irony of this because dealerships, their business is to have nice parking lots that sell vehicles. So if you pull up there, they say, pull it around back. We got spots over there or some other place on the lot. So I think the context of the business kind of focuses it for me. It's not a restaurant that says, okay, we're at capacity. I don't know where we're going to put people when they pull up. It's not a dentist's office or something like that. It's a dealership that specializes in parking lots that sell vehicles. So I think even putting experience aside, for me, it's like I'm good with almost no parking in that because that's what they're there for, parking lots that sell cars.
And this is a required parking stall, which has to be a 9x18 stall, as opposed to a storage of a new vehicle. Those are two completely separate things. So these are actually parking stalls that are required for customers' vehicles, as opposed to display parking or storage parking for that matter.
And considering it's a body shop, you want the banged up ones be parked out of view.
Don't park next to the Maserati. Park over there. Great, thank you.
And
Mr. White?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'll save the bulk of what I want to say for item number 6, actually, because we're going to be talking about it. But when it comes to parking and land use, I think we're going to be hard, and I'll defer to you on this one, Kimberly, but it's my understanding that parking minimums writ large are kind of like I don't want to say a pseudoscience and degrade the work that went into doing it, but we need 4 lanes every 1 bowling lane. We need 3 parking spaces every bay. All of these are very arbitrary. And so I think if you're looking for a standard that's not, that we can uniformly apply, you're going to see a lot of those uniformly applied decisions that's going to result in a lot of inefficient land use. So I actually would say, and this is my opinion, but I think we should be exercising more of our judgment when it comes to minimizing land use from parking. And I'm going to stop talking because I think we're going to talk about this in item number 6. So, sorry.
I'll just say, no argument whatsoever. This for me is about consistency.
Yeah, and that's what I'm trying to get
So
at.
the next person that comes up here in 2 weeks or 2 months that says, "Hey, I'd like a mod to bring my parking down,"
Yeah.
and we say, "Okay, what did you use?" and it wasn't the ITE book; it was their experience, and somehow we say no, and so we've opened ourselves up to a problem. I just want to kind of again get our minds wrapped around the consistency and the totality, as Manager King just mentioned there, just the totality of the situation. You have to take it all in. So thank you.
I do believe the regulations for dealership parking needs to be relooked at, for a number of reasons. You have new vehicle storage, which is different than customer parking, because the employees are pulling the cars in and out. Same with the storage of vehicles that are waiting to be serviced. They don't necessarily mean that the customer is going to drive into that stall. It could be a car that's brought in from the employee. There's a lot of different factors that go into just a one fell swoop ordinance for car dealerships is a little cumbersome because there's so many different types of parking, so many different types of uses there. So I think it would be a good opportunity to relook at that ordinance for dealerships as a whole.
And on that point, I wonder if there is a way for us to to have this uniform standard, but in the sense that like a reduction is like permitted by right. Maybe this is a future discussion, but having parking minimum reductions allowed without conditional use, I wonder if that might be the uniform standard that you're looking for. But again, we can
Agenda item for the future.
Yeah.
So.
Yes.
And I'm all for it.
All right.
Okay.
Need anything else? Okay.
I can save it for the next.
Okay.
There's lots of ways to slice it, so.
Yes. Help me out here. Did I have a motion on the table? I don't believe so.
This is Omar, so moved as written.
Okay. Do we have a second?
This is Matt, I'll second.
All right. Motion made by Mr. Patterson, second by Mr. Heller. Any further discussion on this? I believe this is a voice vote.
Roll call.
Oh, roll call. So I will then recognize the manager and call the roll.
Chair Thompson,
Yes.
Vice Chair Patterson,
Yes.
Ms. Stevens,
Yes.
Mr. Heller,
Yes.
Mr. White.
yes.
Passes unanimously.
All right.
I'd also like to say that, and I said this to the planning commission, that this is a very unique project, given the split zone and the fact that we had an existing dealership, an existing body shop. We had a number of meetings with the township staff to work on the challenges, and staff was very professional during the entire time and worked very well with us, and we do appreciate that. And thank you, we look forward to moving forward.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I also heard that at the planning commission, and I think that's a great example of, you have business or want to do something in the township, come see our staff. They will help you navigate the many avenues to get business done in the township, and just thank them for their support and service to our community. So.
Jeremy?
Yes.
I just
Ms.
wanted to take a quick minute to make sure. Mr. Keough, are you able to hear us all well enough?
Sound check time.
Can't hear her at all. Can't hear Mr. White because he's talking to you. And tonight the manager is talking to you and not talking to us.
Okay.
Out here.
All right.
Okay.
We'll keep that in mind going into the second half here. Teacher voices.
Okay.
Next up, we'll have the minor subdivision plan of Greenwood Circle subdivision. I recognize the township manager.
Provided with the agenda is the Greenwood Circle subdivision parcel 24-001C-154-00001350. Greenwood Circle minor subdivision plan, part of tax parcel 24-001C, 154-150, known as 1350 Greenwood Circle, and within the R1 Single Family Residential Zoning District. The areas of the proposed parcels are 0.3993 acres and 0.8486 acres. The applicant also applied for consideration of a modification to request relief for a new sidewalk requirement as outlined in section 22-512.1 sidewalks. On December 8th, 2025, the Planning Commission voted unanimously to recommend to the Board of Supervisors that the minor subdivision be approved with the following modification and conditions. The one modification is the waiver of the sidewalk for this particular property, and the conditions to meet the administrative items, submittal of a shared driveway agreement, and that condition has been satisfied, and to provide a note on the plan that the house is not considered part of the plan and is a depiction that shows what could be built. Recommended motion is that the Board of Supervisors approve the minor subdivision with associated waiver and conditions.
All right, any questions on this from the board? If not, I'd take a motion to approve the minor subdivision.
One question. There's a future thing coming. This is not in it. It's really about kind of bringing the land together, and then that part of the condition was making sure there was a shared entrance to that land from a subdivision perspective. Yes?
Yes. By shared, you mean driveway?
Yes.
Yes. We have the agreement on file, I believe. We did not provide it in the, actually, I think we did. Provided it.
Yeah, it's in there. Yep.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Okay. Just want to make sure all of this, if I were to boil it down to a sentence, that's the sentence.
Yeah.
I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Heller.
I get concerned when there are sidewalk waivers, etc. What's the existing property around it look like? Are there other sidewalks? Anything?
Yeah, it would have been a sidewalk to nowhere.
No sidewalks.
Just making sure. So, but the land around it, no potential for development, and then, I mean, it's pretty well developed now. But there's no, the neighborhood isn't saying how nice it would be to have a sidewalk or anything. We have this issue in, sometimes Pine Grove Mills, so I want to make sure mobility is.
Yeah.
I'm not aware, but I do think we'll see more and more of these. We get inquiries, somebody has a larger lot in an existing subdivision. The numbers allow them to slice them, and then they have two. So we'll see more of those. But if there's no sidewalk, it doesn't make sense to all of a sudden no sidewalk appears and then you're back to.
Completely agree. That's why I just wanted to make sure that all was considered. So thank you.
Thank you.
Good.
If you'll entertain a motion, Mr. Chair.
Yep.
I move to approve. Thank you. Move to approve the minor subdivision with waivers and conditions.
Do we have a second?
Mr. Trevor, I'll second.
Got a motion by Mr. Patterson, second by Mr. White. Any further discussion on this? Okay. I will recognize the manager to call the roll.
Chair Thompson,
Yes.
Vice Chair Patterson,
Yes.
Ms. Stevens,
Yes.
Mr. Heller,
Yes.
Mr. White,
Yes.
passed unanimously.
All right. Next up, we'll have a board member request a discussion on undeveloped land within the regional growth boundary. And I was going to say either recognize the manager, or if you wanted to, we can defer to Mr. Heller.
If I just make a couple general comments, and of course we have the narrative in the agenda packet. Really, items 6 and 7, as you probably recognize, really are intertwined and go hand in hand. So I think it's a good time to be bringing them together. Staff has talked about these. We have attempted to put some information together that we hope is helpful in some way. In terms of addressing Mr. Heller's written proposal for agenda items. We want to be as transparent as we can be, keeping in mind between item 6 and item 7, there are some things that happen between the planning department and developers and others that may not quite be to the point where we could be speaking in specificity in terms of names and specifics, because it hasn't gotten to that point yet, and we don't want to do anything that's going to disadvantage anybody or advantage anybody. So we want to be as forthright and give you all the information we can. Sometimes it has to be in more of a general sense, and when things have already been filed, we can be very specific about it, but we have to wait for that moment when some filings have actually occurred. So I just wanted to preface it that these go together. we'll share everything that we can. We don't know that we won't have all the information for you tonight, but it's my understanding that we know that we could come back at a later time with any further information that you need, and this gets the conversation started. So with that preface, you have what's in the agenda, and whoever you want to defer to next, Mr. Chair, it's up to you.
I was going to say, open the floor to Mr. Heller since he brought this forward and get his take on this.
I appreciate that, Mr. Chair, and I just want to thank the manager because, yes, as you just stated, this just gets the conversation started.
Yep.
And really wanted to share, and folks will see in the memo where I was going with these thoughts and maybe some expectations down the road to really encourage and find out what we can be doing better, for lack of a better term, than to increase the cash flow into the township. And I feel that housing, bringing in people that want to live in this area, and people want to live in this area, people want to move into properties where they feel, where they have some land, something. I look at great things that we have throughout the township, like the landings, where you think that is, that is housing for folks that work in the community. I'd like to see more of it, and I believe that through discussions like the one tonight and the future conversations, wherever this conversation goes, I look to the board members to help navigate and help propose ideas on where we should move the conversation next. And again, this is really just a preliminary discussion. Rome was not built in a day. I do not believe that Ferguson Township can all of a sudden, open its doors and have properties built tomorrow. But I want to encourage this, and I want to look at ways that we can encourage, again, more folks buying in the area and putting ourselves in a better financial situation by increasing that revenue from the tax dollars. So that is why this is here tonight, is to get the conversation started. I wasn't sure if any of the board members had, wait, I feel like I'm doing your job. 1 second.
You can do it.
No. But that's where it is, Mr. Chair, is
Okay.
wanting to understand that, and I know there's been some good information here, so I'm happy to follow your lead or the conversation, however it goes, around what's been presented or what could be presented tonight.
Yes.
If the board wants at this point, or whenever they do want, the Assistant Township Manager for Public Works, and working in conjunction with the Planning Director, he's put together, using some GIS, some mapping information that shows you different lands, different zoning districts, and lands that have been, are vacant, lands that have been, plans have been submitted for, and so on. So
Yeah.
at whatever point the board thinks you're ready for that presentation, he does have that prepared to go over with the board.
If I may, I think from my understanding, and again, I appreciate the information that's here, if we all kind of have this general sense as to why I brought this forward, then this would probably be a good time for the presentation. And I know I'll be taking some notes and maybe some follow-up questions, and we'll see what folks come back with after the presentation, some ideas. But I welcome other options too.
Yep. I was going to say, if there's nothing, we can, take a look at what staff has prepared. Going to have public comment. So.
You can let that happen.
Okay.
Hopefully this isn't too hard to see. This is something that I can provide a link to online. Okay, so let's start out with an overview of Ferguson Township. Ferguson Township is about 47 square miles, and about 49% of the land is agricultural. About 14% of the township is located in the regional growth boundary, which is outlined in blue here. The regional growth boundary, for those who are unfamiliar, aligns with the UAJA and State College Borough Water Authority sewer and water service areas. It also helps inform our Act 537 sewer service area, and the MS4 stormwater permit area also aligns with that. It comprises, the regional growth boundary comprises wards 2 and 3, and it also covers Ward 1 in Pine Grove Mills. within those areas, in the township in general, we have zoning districts. We can zoom in, we can take a look at any specific zoning district in the regional growth boundary or in Pine Grove Mills. There's a variety of different uses, but it's been pretty much unchanged for a number of years now. Much of the regional growth boundary has been developed. If I pull this over here, so you can hopefully see that a little bit better. All of these areas are neighborhood developments that are either they've either been planned or they've been constructed, one or the other. And you can see that again in Pine Grove Mills, it's very similar. So within those areas, there are areas of vacant or unimproved land. Some of that land is already entitled, meaning it has an improved development plan for it. There are a number of planned residential developments. That would be Fox Point, the Landings, and Turnberry. All of those phasing plans were approved within the last 2 months. I think, yeah, Turnberry. I think the board approved that in December. Fox Point and the Landings, the phasing plans were approved at the last meeting, the last board meeting. In totality, there's about 1,300 housing units in those plans that have not been constructed, that are existing and tentatively approved on paper, but have not been realized at this point. So I say 1,300 housing units. That's including single-family, townhomes, multifamily housing. So there's quite a few different types of housing, but as you can see, these are where these are located. Fox Point being the gap between this Saybrook area, Greenbrier Saybrook, and Hunter's Chase. Obviously, the Landings being this area along Park Center Boulevard, and then Turnberry up in this area along Blue Course Drive. Turnberry, it's a very specific type of PR. It's kind of like a PRD, but it's a traditional town development. It has a little bit of a different design aesthetic, and some of the criteria that go into the planning for it. It's a little bit more prescriptive than what we see in a PRD, which is much less prescriptive, I guess we would say. Workforce housing, the workforce housing ordinance that we often reference, that's required in the traditional town development, as well as the West College neighborhood, which is here in the purple area. So those are the only two areas where it's required by ordinance. There's other open space that's available in the township, but some of that is occupied by things like the airport overlay district. So it is open space, but it cannot be developed because it needs to be there to allow for the airport to function properly. Or the Penn State Golf Course. That's a large land use that at a distance, it's a big green space, but it's a golf course, obviously. So where can we build new homes in Ferguson Township? Pine Hall. Pine Hall, as you'll see with the comp plan discussion at the regional level, those numbers that were existing on the Pine Hall development plan, there were about 800 units at one point that were planned to be developed there. That plan was rescinded in 2023. The Red Cap program that I'm referencing with the comp plan that is real estate development statistics includes those numbers in there. So it looks like Ferguson Township has about 2,100 units, but like I said, that it's closer to 1,300 because Pine Hall was rescinded in 2023. Hillside Farm Estates is an area as well. That is, I need to do a deeper dive into that one specifically to understand the status of where that plan is right now, but that is an area that can be developed. And also this area along Blue Course Drive next to Sylvan Estates. We'll put, building new homes will obviously put some additional stress on the transportation network. But this is one of the key themes that we keep coming back to whenever we're talking about building more housing in Ferguson Township. There are roads shown on the township's official map that we expect to be constructed with these developments. Historically, the township has relied on the developer to construct those roads. What happens is if the plan is not completed, we end up with gaps in the system. So we do have some significant gaps existing right now. And when we're talking about the road network, and we mean a network, we're relying in some areas on, we're expecting the network to do the lifting to mitigate traffic in some of these areas. So for instance, in Fox Point, we're looking at a collector coming from Hunter's Chase up into Fox Point Drive, but from Hunter's Chase up into the Saybrook development. The landings, obviously, this area running north-south, if you can see my cursor, is Airport Road, which exists, but the original design called for Parkway Center Boulevard to extend over to Westerly Parkway, intersecting with Blue Course. As well, you see Quail Run Road extend into that area as well. So you get a lot more connection through there. Pine Hall, with that plan being rescinded, there's the expectation that Northwick Boulevard would extend down and connect to Old Gatesburg Road. So without having that plan realized, we're missing a significant stretch of road there as well. South Fox Point is a road that would extend out of the Hunter's Chase development. If we zoom in here a little bit, we can see we would come out of Hunter's Chase and it would extend down to Pine Grove Mills, just to the, sorry, I'm zooming in on the actual screen, not the map. But it would offset some of that traffic that we would see taking Science Park Road, and kind of providing a little bit of a relief valve through that area off of West College down into Pine Grove Mills. And then also along West College, it's expected that there would be a road that would connect here, although this one is of much lesser significance. So what we're seeing really is there's a balance that we're kind of trying to strike and take a look at as we talk about the housing development. The township has a need for additional traffic infrastructure. We see that incrementally building up as each development comes along. And the housing developments and the PRDs are supposed to provide some of that infrastructure. So there's the economic value of the housing, the social value of the housing. There's also a value in terms of getting these plans completed, an incentive to the township to get these completed to get some transportation networks built out. Because we need that whether the housing is there or not, we need the transportation network to be completed at some point to manage all of the traffic that we're seeing overall in the township. Yeah, that's the end of that presentation, but try to answer what I can.
Any questions? I was thinking, I don't know, did you mention anything about the intersection of the corner of Aaron Drive and Martin Street? There's undeveloped land there, and I think at one time, probably even before Kim's predecessor, Waters had proposed, I think, like 60 or 100 unit apartment building with a road connecting from Aaron Plaza the whole way over to the traffic light across from Walmart. Just throwing that one out there.
Sure. Yeah. There are various in our vacant land layer. If I zoom back out and sorry if I'm scrolling around quite a bit. There's a decent amount of pockets of vacant space or unimproved, I guess we should say unimproved. It's not technically vacant, it's unimproved land inside the regional growth boundary. There are pockets where something could go. We know that there are, a couple hundred acres that can be developed in various ways, but we also know that there's individual lots and pockets and things that could happen, redevelopment that could happen. But in terms of pure housing that's approved on the books today, this is what, this is where we're at today. So about 1,300 units. It's a pretty significant amount of housing that is sitting out there unrealized currently.
Mr. White.
So I did a little bit of GIS stuff too. So my numbers are within our regional growth boundary. We've got about 1,500 acres of vacant land. Of those 1,300 additional housing units, like how much acreage do those 1,300 houses are they going to sit on out of the 1,500 that's left? And if you don't have the answer, I apologize. I'm not trying to ambush.
So, excuse me. So if you take the PRD, the TTD, and what is residential and vacant, I think there's about 631 acres.
Okay.
That's what I have total for those three combined. There's some mixed use and things that you could throw in the mix there, but I mean, generally speaking, we're talking about 600 acres.
So we'd be looking at roughly 2 dwelling units per acre of density.
Yeah, it's a mix, and it's a mix based on it's not uniform across all of them. TTD, the Turnberry development has a higher density ratio, and I forget what that ratio is off the top of my head. That one is a little bit higher. Might even be closer to, I want to say it's closer to 5, but I don't have that in front of me. But it's a mix, yeah.
Like the single family homes are obviously going to be a lot less.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I asked that because I have another number, which is 1719. That's the number of acres within the regional growth boundary, 1,719, which is residential. And of that, it's like 80-something% is all single family. So a lot of our, when we look at maximum building coverage, maximum impervious surface coverage, when we actually look at the land that is being used right now, there is a lot of unused land in between all of that as a result of minimum lot sizes, maximum area coverage, and so on and so forth. So I'll leave it there for now because I don't want to hijack this. So yeah.
Yes, Mr. Heller?
So if I may, something caught my attention. Being a pilot, airport, something we can't use because the airport?
The FAA regulations, that you have to have so much space for takeoffs and landings and stuff like that. So the airport overlay just provides that buffer.
For what airport?
The State College Airport.
Interesting.
Out this far. When was the last time they reviewed that? Because I've worked with the FAA in transitioning lands, and I'm curious when the last time that was reviewed, or.
That's a good question. I don't know that, but that has been part of our zoning for as long as I've been at the township.
Yes, and I'm wondering if it was grandfathered in actually because of the airport that used to be there.
Yeah, there
and
used
if
to
it
be,
just sits there grandfathered and nobody's really asked the FAA, could we return it? I don't know. Maybe that's a future question.
I would think that would be a question at the regional, at the comp plan level, that would then inform what we need to do in terms of our zoning as a result of the comp plan and the land use study.
I was going to say that, yeah, you made a great observation. I was like thinking there, I'm like, what are they talking about? Like, I was going to say, did anyone have anything? Kind of remind me of when I was in Seattle, one of their first high rises, they actually had to cut 6 stories off each story, so because the building couldn't exceed a certain height, otherwise they would get docked because all the airplanes would have to reroute going out of the airport.
Yeah, I think that, excuse me, the official map was last adopted, or last updated in 2022, so it would have reflected the most recent study was what, sorry, Kim, what was that, 2019?
2019.
2019.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. And so I would say maybe, I'm not looking to put a motion to this or something, but as we continue the conversation, that might be something to better understand is, could we potentially transition that into something that's usable and ask the FAA to relook at it if they still have ownership or governance over it? Please.
I was just going to ask, is it more overlay district? Is it a result, is that administered by the regional, like the COG? Okay, so that's administered by the FAA and we just incorporate that in?
So go ahead, Kim.
No, go ahead.
The overlay district we have various overlay districts within the township. It's just one of the overlays. Honestly, I suppose I haven't done that deep dive into the airport overlay district other than it's been on the map and it's been there for quite a while. So, yeah, I don't know if you have anything else on that one, Kim.
It hasn't come up since I've been here, but it is in here and it does refer to University Park Airport. One of my former communities had a pretty good overlay district as well, and we even had a three-dimensional map where you could see the step down for buildings and where cranes could go, and it was for the same reason.
I don't know anybody that would crash a plane in that little area. Let's be honest, that's okay. Interesting.
I've made a note of that, and we will see what additional information we could get. I don't know how far we can go with it, but we will explore and see if we can learn any more about the history of that and the current status. I mean, I think we know the current status, but kind of does it need to remain that way?
And if I'm correct as well, the medical helicopters, you do utilize the golf course sometimes in the event of having to airlift a patient out of the area. But again,
They land a lot of places.
yeah. Basically wherever a helicopter could land.
It might surprise some of those helicopter pilots that there's an airport overlay district that they could take advantage of. Okay. I'm curious if there are does this spark or bring us down a certain path for our conversation? I know I have just general questions, but I'm curious if any of the board members, I see open property, vacant land, things that could be investigated or talked about differently, understanding that potentially maybe there are conversations that are happening, and of course we don't want to create uneven advantages for anybody. But does anybody feel like they have a sense as to what other questions we should be asking about these properties?
I can keep going all day. So I will.
I think we're in a space where just these questions, this dialogue's been really good. The only problem with it is that we five here, I don't know there's much that we can do about it other than helping to change the zoning in some way, helping by changing some zoning, by changing, and it's a massive thing. It's a thing that I think we had already made that request of hey Kimberly, if there's something you have, bring it. Let's do it. I don't want to wait for a full rewrite. That's my opinion. Omari does not want to wait for a consultant to come in here and rewrite the whole thing. He would love to see. I personally, I'm speaking for myself. I would love to see kind of a list of 2 or 3 things that kind of span that say, hey, this is broken, and it's been broken since the last right of the last consultant. Of whatever happened, it's broken. Just like we did last year at the same time for the West College Neighborhood District, where there was a typo, and we fixed it. And so then there was a lot of land that could be worked. It's still not worked, unfortunately, but it opened up that land to being the land in that area, a few small parcels to be worked. So I guess that's where I am right now, is that we can look at GIS all day. It's not going to make the market work. So I think what will is it? So I'll pause there.
Oh, pick me. I'm like bouncing out of my chair here. This is all I read. Yes. What we can do, like, I'm curious. Allowing conversions in ADUs by right, or backyard cottages, or accessory apartments, or whatever you want to call them. They're all the same thing. Like permitting that beyond RA, permitting conversions in R1, R1B from detached single family to semi-detached single family to whatever, right? To duplex. People have their property. Let them do what they want with it. And I know that's like the, like a political talking point, if you will. But like realistically, if we don't allow by right for a lot of these smaller, more dynamic solutions, then yeah, we are kneecapping ourselves with staring at vacant land and waiting for development phases and schedule. Like this could be so massive for our local, and I don't want to go into the next bullet point, but for somebody to construct a bunch of homes, they need a lot more capital than somebody to just construct an ADU, which I'm not saying that's not a minor task, but the economies of scale there are wildly different. And so if we want to have like the smaller, more entrepreneurial, small scale contractors here building up a resilient local economy, but also building up the housing for it, those are two things. Allowing those by right in R1, in any residential district where detached single family homes would be allowed, but also to what the 1,300 additional housing units, if we just blanket apply the minimum parking requirement of 2 per single family home, understanding that it's not all single family homes there, but if we just apply those 2 9x18 spaces to these 1,300 units, you're looking at 5 acres of parking right there. Like, our minimum parking requirements take up a lot of space. They increase development costs, maybe. If I'm not saying like, oh, get rid of them entirely, but should we be subsidizing subsidizing? Should we be mandating that every vehicle or every dwelling unit have 2 parking spaces? Not everybody, like, what if the house only needs 1 car? Then you got unused, you have created inefficient land use by mandating these minimum requirements. So I think those are the 3 things that we could do. We could take a look at expanding, and by right, basically somebody, if I'm not mistaken, by right is somebody comes in, has the permit, and then they can go and get it done conditional upon the permit approval. Whereas if it's like a conditional use or special exception, they got to come for the hearing. There's timelines, and so reducing the monetary and non-monetary costs for both residents, prospective residents, prospective contractors who want to get into this business. Like I think that's the way to go. And I need to drink water because I've been black.
I'm kind of seeing possibly an opportunity of like, what can we do now? What can we maybe do later? What would we like to do that might be more time intensive and extensive and exhaustive that we can at least get on a list for, something to look at futuristically. So, yeah.
And for me, and
you may.
okay.
Yes.
This is all part of the conversation, ADUs and everything. I will say this, I'm not focused in this on ADUs because I believe in the development of ADUs, especially being with a college town right next door. They're going to go to college students where families build them and then can rent them out. And I don't see a lot of revenue coming from ADUs to support the township. So unless, and we can talk at a later date about maybe revenue streams that have been done some other places on ADUs, but again, they're wonderful for the homeowner and they're great for the college students that are going to move in there, but I don't see them. And unfortunately, this bit one of our local municipalities over the past couple of years where there were promises and ideals of if we build these things, it will help our tax base. And then for them, students moved in and they don't bring revenue. Right. And we've seen it locally because we are in a college town. So I think the ADU conversation, all of this goes hand in hand and is good for a future date. But for me tonight, it's really about seeing vacant properties that have development that I've been questioned many times about by residents as to why aren't they being developed. Where do they stand? We were promised town centers in some of these locations, ideas, and nothing's been done. So there's a frustration from the community on these things not being developed that I'm sharing here publicly. And there are questions as to why and what we need to do differently to encourage development. And I don't know what those answers are, but to move the 1,300 along or to encourage other areas to be converted for zoning and future conversations, I'd love to see some more movement in many ways. And again, tonight is just the first step of setting, I think, the right tone and direction for where I personally would like to see us moving to, again, help out the residents and support them by increasing our tax base.
I'll say this and I'll defer to Kim. And I've done a pretty deep dive onto the existing plans that have these 1,300 units in there, and there's really nothing that there's no deal breaker in my mind that we can't get something right. There are certain ordinances, but that have to be addressed, and they're based around safety. But there are things that you can do and you should do because it's the ordinance, but they're not things that prevent anything from getting done. From that end, there's just nothing. There's really nothing there other than cost of construction. I think what we're talking about with some of the transportation network, with the cost of building roads, I think is extremely prohibitive. But that's a major component of what we have in some of these plans. That, quite honestly, like we're pointing out, that there's major gaps in the network that the developments were supposed to support. So without those, the township is kind of in this sort of purgatory transportation-wise, but also it's a high cost for the developers to continue to build those things and to meet their bottom line with their housing. There are things, I think, in the instance of Pine Hall, that certainly is not something that is within the township's control. There are other things that are not really in the township's control in terms of partnerships and how things are intertwined with the developers themselves. But in terms of the plans are tentatively approved, which means they've been approved. So the next step is to bring something to the table for final approval. So we're kind of we have discussions and we're kind of working on how we can address the major issues for developers, but a lot of it comes down to purely just cost of construction at this point. And I think that the one thing that the board does have in its bag of tricks, so to speak, is, for instance, when we're talking about parking, the fact that it's in the Chapter 22 saldo means that it comes back to the board for the ultimate decision. So if somebody is requesting a waiver to, as staff, we can't provide the relief that you need, but we can get you on the road to that relief to get in front of whether it's the board or planning commission or zoning hearing board to address the questions that you have to try to get that relief. So it's a tricky situation because you can't make somebody take the first step. But I think that's been our message, for a while now, is that, we're here, we're willing to meet and hear, what we can do and try to figure out to help developers move things along. As staff, that's kind of where we can get you on the road. You have to want to get on the road. We can get you to where you want to go. And then ultimately, some of those relief valves, as Kim always mentions, like some of the relief valves, they end up at the board or planning or zoning hearing board for that ultimate final decision of if you're going to allow this or not. But Kim, I know you had something to say, so I wanted to.
No, I think that was good. Just adding to it, there's so many pieces. We're already starting to talk with some of the developers and letting them know that there does seem to be a renewed appetite for wanting to approve and being helpful, can't speak, helpful to developers in terms of exactly what we saw with reduction in parking requirements. Again, as long as we're consistent, but I think there's a consistency there. We're also starting to see that some of these plans are a little bit older. It doesn't mean they're antiquated, but it does mean the developers are ready for some portions to reimagine portions of it. So those are it's probably more question and answer, a little bit of conversation about what that looks like. But kind of what James was alluding to, it comes down to just getting the developers to a comfort level where they're ready to just submit, and then we're on that path once they do submit some of these things that be reimagined. And by reimagined, it might just be a change in the phasing, it might be a change in the distribution of the density, or leaving a portion that doesn't make sense for the originally intended use, but saving it as a placeholder for when it could make sense. So we are having those conversations. Just taking notes here. On the issue of the ordinance, we do feel it's related, but it's not the one thing. Anything that makes life a little bit easier for everybody, we're always looking at. Anytime you tweak an ordinance, there's always a fallout, no matter how great you are and well-intentioned, you don't see it for a couple of years. And that's where we're at. So as we see things, we do have quite a list going, and no, there's no one official list, but it's we're starting to sweep it all together, and now that we've had some time with it, we're looking in terms of categories that make sense versus priority, so more efficiencies. So there's those minor fixes like you saw, like a couple words being left out meant the difference of an entire building use. So there's those, but then there's the ones that are more a change in direction or value. Those are those bigger sweeps, like the ADU conversation, which leads into where it's appropriate. Some, established neighborhoods should have some predictability. Is it better in a newer neighborhood? Or, those are more that public realm conversations versus those quick fixes. Other things we're running into that are just daily, like once the property's developed, but the daily use of the property, such as tents. Our code talks about tent sales, but it doesn't really talk about how you get married in a tent. And yet we get requests like that. There's the larger events, so there's those things, but then there's the connectivity ones where while they're bigger, they're not huge fixes, or not a huge lift for fixes, like where, I've mentioned this before, where the stormwater ordinance kind of crosses over, or one section, you start out in the zoning code, which is one path for variances, but it might refer you to the saldo, which actually it might refer you to yet one other section related to sidewalks. So then we're spending time going, is that a waiver? Is that a variance? What's, the preliminary minor? So those kinds of things is the other piece that we're looking at, is what just simply offers efficiency from the get-go, so that we encourage the pre-meetings, but maybe we don't need so many. And I guess, and then the other piece is, what can we push down? There's an awful lot of conditional uses in there. What actually needs to be a conditional use? And that forces us to really look at the purpose of a conditional use. When does it need to be a public hearing? And when are they just standards that need to be followed? So like working our way around the gamut. Also for the parking is another thing. We talked about minimums. There's maximums. There's shared. Form-based includes shared. So just for your comfort, we love this stuff. We talk all the time about how it all fits together. So we're prepared. When we're going to keep working alongside, but when so directed, we'll start moving things forward. But we appreciated the time so that it wasn't just onesie twosies. It's trying to predict that domino effect as we bring you items. So.
Thank you, Kim, so much for sharing all that. I could see your enthusiasm and passion in this, and it sounds like there has been a lot of stuff that you and your team have collaborated on. I know for myself, I'd love to see things come forward, but in ways that are digestible and healthy for your workload, and that are directed by the manager, and just glad to have this discussion. Thank you so much, Mr. Heller, for bringing this forward. Yes, but I forgot to use my teacher voice. So use your teacher voice.
I want to say also thank you for that, because it's important, and you said something that I really want us to take away tonight, and it's that renewed appetite.
Yeah.
Yes. If nothing else, that's what this is about for me. The renewed appetite for looking at these things, having those conversations, reducing the barriers, finding those, to Omari's comments, finding those things that could be changed, tweaked to make things easier, to Trevor's comments about ADUs, how do those fit into it? If we look at how everything is stitched together, the feedback loops, we do this, but that's going to impact that. It's scientific, it's creative, and I'm wondering to move this forward and not to spend all night on it, because we certainly could. But if there were things that the supervisors might want to see brought back, Mr. White, you mentioned, for example, the density ratios of the developed properties. I'd like to know that. I don't know if that's something at a future meeting we could maybe talk a little bit about, or I don't know if this is appropriate.
I guess I would check with the manager, at least make sure this isn't like a heavy lift. But then again, if not staff, I don't think anything would, preclude. I was going to say, Mr. White seems to be able to get a lot of good data independently, but yeah, however we see fit.
I would say supervisors share what they would like to see us obtain if we can. We can go back and say, this is just a lot of very time intensive. The data is just not easily accessible. We can let you know if there's complications and from a standpoint of being very time consuming, and how valuable is it for what our, the ROI on it for finding that data. So I'm fine hearing what your interest would be, because something could be obtained pretty easily and other things might take a lot of work. We come back and say, that, for what we would get out of this, we believe that's just going to be too much work.
Huh. Sounds fair.
So, you just mentioned the ratios.
So maybe it's a table that essentially says, here are the properties, their development, here's their ratio, etc. Here's how much property, how much land we're actually talking about, to give a sense of magnitude of the 1,300 properties and of those that are just open on the table, where this is how many acres are just sitting undeveloped, where the developer hasn't proposed anything. So I don't have specifics, but I'm sorry.
I'm just curious, what's the goal? We are a policy body, right? So I am focused on what's the policy that, or I think we all should be, what's the policy that will aid in what you're just describing? So I'm not sure, at least, that knowing the density on a lot and who's supposed to be developing it is going to get us to what's the policy that actually gets them to develop. And so, I'm saying all that to back to my question of what's the goal of you wanting to see that. I want to fix the problem. I don't want to stare at the problem. Maybe it's going. I don't need more proof of a problem.
Well, I just want to make sure, are we all on the same page about what the problem is? I feel like that's got to, I can tell you what I think the problem, I say the problem is, right? And we're talking about housing. I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page about what the problem is. That way our solution is, we're coming from the same starting point, if you will. I'm happy to.
We probably are not aligned on the problem.
Okay, what do you think? Maybe we should say what we think it is.
If I may, I'm sorry. I believe there are multi-facets to the problem.
Yeah.
But I would say the issue is there's not enough revenue coming into the township, and part of this is we have undeveloped land. I'm not going to say it's this reason or these other problems that are lending to it, but that's the issue I'm hoping we can work through.
So you want to solve the fiscal issues with it. Obviously, like we all do. But that's what this discussion item is to you.
That it is.
Okay.
It is. And to Mr. Patterson, your question earlier, you're right. For me, a table or a way of looking at these focuses and is transparent. So we can see in one spot, because I've not seen in one spot, just a breakdown so that we understand this is what we're actually talking about. We see that we can pull up this map and then look at it here and tweak this one thing, but to aggregate that in a simple place that anybody here in Ferguson Township can look and say, oh, now I understand what Supervisor X is talking about when they say it would be nice if we put ADUs on 1,300 properties. I can see those 1,300 properties on this. It helps the conversation with the public. And it does not, and to the point, I don't feel it really moves us closer to a solution, except it improves the conversation so that we can get to a solution because more people are informed about the issues. That's how I see it, so, just me.
James, well, now the manager has something.
Well, I was just going to try to summarize some things about next steps, but let me just, I think going forward, I think, and I agree with Mr. Patterson, and both, I think they both can be possible where it is policy setting, and I think that what we would like to do is, one of our priorities, even before tonight, in the past month or so, and we've been able to have some meetings and start working, is on these existing ones that you've probably been asked a lot about, the Fox Points, the Landings, the Turnberry. We're working on those. We're meeting with people, and we're hoping that there's that renewed interest in getting to the next step. From that, as those get developed out, 1,300 units, I think it addresses your concern for some helping the tax base, through EIT and property tax and so on. It also is going to help with our next topic, economic development. So it's not a one and done. It also, because some of these units are going to have the workforce or attainable housing. Mm-hmm. So it's also going to help with housing in terms of more affordable, more attainable housing for some of these units. So, it's not in a vacuum. It's all working to accomplish a number of things. And I think, all three of those things, housing and attainable housing, economic development, and fiscal, those all are part of our strategic plan. I mean, those are our goals in our strategic plan. So this is all very relative. What I would like to do is come back and say, here's where, and you heard tonight a preview of it from Kim and from James. She began to rattle off some of the things we're hearing, whether it's parking or whatever it might be, as to been some hurdles for developers and others that people have to go through, why it's difficult to get some of this done. So as a policy setting board, I'd like to come back to you and say, these are parts of our code that are really hindering us. Mm-hmm. When I say us, to accomplish the goals of the organization, to be able to provide housing for people, to have fiscal stability in our budgets. This is what we need you to consider changes in policy in order to make this all more doable, and really focus from a standpoint of land development, of what's available land and what's unavailable land, vacant, improved, et cetera. Let's focus first on what we've had on the map for a long time, not exclusive of everything else, but kind of our emphasis in those areas. Give you the list of things that we are having challenges with, where we might need some text amendments and some ordinance changes, where you could be helpful so that we could come to you with a list of things that we would like to have changes. And then I think we continue our collaboration with our developers, as we have done the past 5 or 6 weeks just in this year, and see if we can't get some of these things done.
I love all that. Thank you.
One more question, actually, because it may tie to a couple of things, but are there any state barriers in the way? So state policy that is driving or limiting what we can do here in Ferguson as it relates to this agenda item?
Nothing jumps out at me. I'm looking at some shaking of heads no. Nothing at this point. We reserve the right to come back and say, in addition to our own local ordinances restricting us. And the other thing I failed to mention in my summary is also at what point the township supervisors think that we also might need to do our part from a standpoint of funding to help get some of this development going. There might be some money we need to put forward to try to make some things happen as a way of getting to the next level that increases economic development, increases our revenue, putting a little bit, different ways that we've been brainstorming that we could kind of be able to spend a little bit of money that would get us to where we need to be and be much better off in the long run.
Well, I just want to follow up on, so the reason why I asked about any state issues, there's a meeting in a month associated with like driving from like the bottom up, hey, local folks, we have this issue, bring it to PML and LC, all the other 3-letter, 4-letter organizations that can help with that lobbying effort on behalf of local level.
The last thing, just to tie all that together, because I think everyone has said something that I think we've seen at a staff level in reviewing this, is that whether we're talking about parking or housing or any land use, any ordinance, is that our code really is designed, or was designed, and the bulk of it was written at a time when there was a lot of vacant farmland, right? There was a lot of greenfield development. And now what we're seeing in the regional growth boundary with a lot of developers and applicants when they come in is they're trying to do something in something that already exists, or they're trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. And so now it's 30 years later, the buildings have been built, the Sandy Drive, it has all of the parking along it, all of these areas, these little pockets have been filled in, and it's hard for somebody to do something quickly because the code is really talking about this broader, wider township level. And so if I could put all of those things into one bin and sort of gather them together, it's kind of looking at it through that lens of how you can things have changed and you have to address them from a different level when we're talking about conditional uses. Even at times when in the code it appears to be giving more flexibility, and for some it's less flexible because they are like, I don't want to have to deal with this, I just want to do the thing I was going to do because I've been in this building for 30 years and I just want to change my business, and that's it. And so there's like a lot of those types of things, if I could sum it up. But yeah, that's it.
Yes. I'm good with everything here, and I just want to say it seems like we have touched on some passion and excitement within the staff, and also some of the, and I appreciate hearing that. So thank you. It sounds like this is something with the conversations that are happening now, with the ones that I would anticipate with developers and others going forward. Thank you for bringing that enthusiasm and excitement, because that's great to see, truly.
Staff has put a lot of time into it, and they're very passionate about their work.
Yes. Thank you. I'm looking for solutions, and we got the A team here, so thank you. That was all I had to say on this whole topic. So.
Want to call Mr. Q?
Me?
Mr. Q has been waiting. I think you got your turn. I'm the chair. Come on forward, Mr. Q.
The last half hour has been absolutely great. Thank you. Number one. Okay? Sometimes I think we need more of that kind of public sharing and questioning than we typically have historically had. And so the topic, and I think it was outstanding. At one time, Ferguson Township had 2 airports. We currently have 1. And it's not the Erie Tech property. Does anybody know where one is besides Mr. Heller? It's in the western end of the township. The Homan property. Mr. Homan and Mrs. Homan were flying farmers. They had national reputations and so on. But going back to the discussion about this overlay, in the Planning Commission, we've hit on that before. And the overlay is a pretty wide swath for a variety of reasons, including things like turning around and doing some of the things that it has to do to avoid certain other issues. So I think the discussion is a good one. I think we ought to talk again about to the FAA, but they're the ones who make the call. And historically, we have gone along with what they have done. I think, following up with Mr. King's comments, there is a logical path forward with your discussion tonight. One of the challenges we have sitting in this room is a huge variation in the amount of information each of you has about the subject that we talked about tonight. Some of you come from one direction, some of you come from another direction, and we're going to have an opportunity to sit down with the Planning Commission, because they too have that challenge, and jointly look at a redesign of the historic comprehensive plan in the region. We're going to see a comprehensive plan like we have never seen a regional comprehensive plan before, and I've seen a lot of them. It's going to be data-based, and it's going to present trends and ways of looking at our whole development and environment here that'll give all of us the same base from which to then carry on these kinds of conversations. And I think it's very important. I don't know what the date is, Kim, but I know that we have coming up at some point a joint meeting between the Planning Commission and the Board of Supervisors and staff with the comprehensive plan people to start that process. So I think there is a path moving forward. We have two issues. One is, we have more than two, but one is the region in general. We don't live in a vacuum. And the other is the township specifically. And we've got to wrestle with that. You saw tonight a change, something different. Historically, the Blaise Alexander proposal would have gone to the zoning hearing board for a fee and had variances granted for a variety of things in the plan. However, you dealt with modifications tonight, something that is quite different in the way we do work around here, and where the planning staff saw the opportunities to do a modification versus what historically was get a variance. And we typically zoned by variance around here for a long time, is a very positive change. Unfortunately for Mr. Patterson, he'd like everything to be the same and equal for everybody. But when we look at the landmass that we have, and James mentioned this, it's like putting a round peg in a square hole. All of our landmass is so different for a variety of reasons that we have to have some flexibility, and that was one of the things that we tended not to be willing to embrace. I'm looking forward to us working together. I think the Planning Commission and the Township. Well, by the way, I have to give my disclaimer. I'm not speaking for the Planning Commission, but as a member of the Planning Commission, I think to have you people on the same page as the Planning Commission people we're not doing things from different perspectives to come up with a similar solution. I'd rather have us do it all together and let staff become the leadership team to direct that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Patterson.
Just one small clarification. I do not seek for everything to be exactly the same. If you heard my words, it was more about consistency. And I will give you an example of consistency. Is you were just speaking, you spoke for 6 minutes. And typically we give 5 minutes, but you, sir, are the only one in this room right now. And so you've been given it, like it's been consistent that because you're the only one here, you get a couple extra minutes, and no one cares. So, but there's no one they're fine with it because you're the one here. When there's 50 people, they're gonna start. Sorry, you can't. No, you've hurt your time. That's what I just want, consistency in the way that we're viewing these decisions, right? So. Well, Mr. Keel got up and said, well, in my experience, there's no parking. Oh, your experience? Done. Sold.
To his credit, I was monitoring him tonight, and at the 5-minute mark, he's been actually good at somewhat wrapping it down. So, thank you.
These were my notes for
I was going to say, he could have just read that whole 190-page packet. So we got 190 pages in 5 minutes. All right. I don't believe any formal motion. Just staff has notes to go off of, and maybe more to come. So next up will be the board member request, a discussion on current and planned economic development initiatives, and I will recognize the manager.
I'm going to summarize this since there's no action needed, nothing official. The first part is just referring to the plan that was adopted, approved in January of 2026. That was the Ferguson Forward Plan. It provides the various goals of that plan. That was developed by Fourth Economy. We had over 900 individuals who participated in that plan in various ways, surveys, roundtables, steering committees, etc. Well, they've prepared an executive summary, which I've put in your packet. And so tonight, what I just wanted to begin the conversation with is just from staff's perspective, we spent 8 or 9 months, we spent money, we got a grant for that work, but we spent money and significant time involving a lot of people to come up with a plan. Moving forward, we really believe that it's important that we use that as our roadmap and our guideline to get to our next levels for economic development. And so what we hope to hear tonight is the level of priority that plan is for the board, from the board, as using that as a roadmap. And then we could talk a little bit about what's happened before that plan, like what have we done over the past year with economic development and some of the different businesses that contact us, not by specific names, but in generalities. But what we'd like to do is be able to get the go-ahead after we have discussion tonight to come back to the board to really talk in specifics about how do we operationalize this plan so it doesn't sit on a shelf, that over the course of the next 1 to 2 years we could be very proud of some of the accomplishments that we've had from activating and implementing that plan. So past, we can talk a little bit about what we've done the past year. Going forward, it's really that plan, and we want to know if that's a plan that we should be using as our roadmap, since it was just adopted 5 or 6 weeks ago.
And Mr. Heller.
Yes, Mr. Chair, since I brought this forward, everything that was just stated by the manager is what I was hoping we would come away with tonight, is can we agree of what the plan would be? And historically, what I've seen is that economic development happened in a pocket or was brought up in a conversation in this place or was something over here. And it had never really been synthesized into the plan that we see now. And again, this happened during the time of bringing this motion forward. But now there is essentially a strategy that I would say, yes, I'd like to see the roadmap of what that would look like and staff's proposal on that. And also, it does raise the question of priority. And for me, depending on what work has to be done, and I want to be cognizant of this. By the way, I'm an a la carte menu type of person, just so everybody's aware. Hey, here are the list of things we can do. Show us the priority. I like B, I like D. Yeah, we don't need A and F, and then we move forward. So I'm an a la carte type of person. So when I think about economic development plan, I put that right up there with, okay, there's public safety, there's keeping the roads and everything where they need to be, so maintaining, and then there's where are we going for the future. Those, right after public safety, are it for me. And I think about this, and I would say this is a high priority for me, and understanding how we're going to implement the plan or propose to implement the plan for discussion with the board would be a huge step forward at a future date. And last year, to reiterate history too, I know we were planning a prioritization discussion early in Q1, or maybe it was going to be this month, but I know with staff transitions and things that hadn't been brought up, but I think that's also part of this conversation, is what are the priorities for the board for the upcoming year, and where does this then fit into it? So all these things go hand in glove for me. Those are my comments, thank you.
It's interesting that you bring that up, because I was gonna ask the board, understanding we haven't yet done that prioritization, would the board tonight say this was at least within their top 5? To kind of give staff a kind of sense, maybe not put it specifically someplace, but kind of at least put a gauge on where that, at what level that priority is at, to better understand, at least this piece moving forward. So, Mr. Patterson.
I apologize, I've got another commitment. So it'll leave a couple
Totally
minutes.
go ahead.
However, what I'll end with is I'm okay with whatever. This is I would say higher than medium priority. It's not what the rest of things. It's a little bit up there, but it's not public safety. It's not kind of day to day of making sure the residents kind of basics are all thumbs up, check, we're good. But I think what we won't get today, I don't think, but we'll see, is what's going to fall out. When we go to put something else in, when we make this, when we go to do this execution, what goes away? And so that's probably the most important thing to understand, is if we do embark on, let's do more economic development, let's make a plan and put this top 3, then what is no longer going to be done, and what's the impact of doing that? I think that would be and it's never guaranteed. It's not guaranteed that every strategy will work, and you do all this community output, and it could yield nothing. And so what's falling out, what is not going to get done, and that'll be important for me to understand. What are we going to no longer do as a result of piecing this in?
I love that, and
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. If I may, I always like to ask the question of teams when there's a list, and I would ask, what would you like us to stop doing? Oh boy. That's a tough question.
That's so easy.
Right? But yet when we get that list, that's what you're asking us. What would you like us to stop doing sometime? And that's a tough conversation, but if we approach it with grace and understanding, and I trust everybody here, and my experiences have led me to believe that we will always do that, I think we're setting ourselves up for some really robust conversations.
Yeah, that's what we would bring back to the board as a proposal, and this is the give and take, this is what it would look like, this is what we can't get done if we do this, or if we talk about additional staffing.
Thank you.
And the nice thing is, now that there is an economic development plan on the table, that could actually open the door for us for possible grant funding opportunities. One thing I have kind of learned along the way, sometimes there's a lot of money and time to go into plans, but sometimes having a plan actually qualifies you for a grant. It's a big heavy lift that's already been taken care of. So I guess finding, I guess identifying what might be available to us to bring this plan to life. Especially if it may and it may actually do require some resources to something for us to kind of look at going down the road. Is that something we want to fund? Maybe even looking through our professional network in PML or National League of Cities, any similar municipalities that might be a few steps ahead of us. What worked for them? What was their best practices on furthering economic development, and taking those into consideration as we map out taking this plan forward. So.
Say, unless you want the economics major to talk about how he feels about the importance of economics development, I think it's safe to say that this is very important to me.
Very important. Okay. I was going to say, continuing down the line, I would definitely put that within that top 5. I'm thinking maybe even 3 based on what I'm kind of hearing, 3, 4, something more along there. Ms. Stevens.
I guess I'm the one that's going to skew the curve, because I believe in the importance of it. I don't think it's a high priority for me at all, and particularly because as we are going through a transition here, we will be having a new manager who may have another priority, as I see that we have been sort of getting our ducks in a row here operationally, in terms of internal policies and things like that, whether it is becoming more of a cloud-based service, getting things more. So I just don't know. I'm not sure where I stand. I think we're still in too much transition. I think it also could require hiring more people, and I'm not sure that a new manager might be interested in doing that. So I don't think it's a high priority for me, but I am one on a board of 5, and we will work it out.
I don't think it skews it a lot. I wasn't necessarily hearing like, hey, this is going to be the first and foremost, thing that we're going to do, that we want to do. But, it's a few steps down below the everyday operations. And, appreciate your feedback on that.
Yeah.
And I'll say, I think for me, my priorities don't change for who's in the seat. I recognize the transition that we're in, but my priorities today are likely going to be the same ones and won't truly be impacted by who's in that seat. I do want to hear that. I don't want to say I don't want to hear what they have to say and offer, and I get that. But I'm still going to say that this is probably not my top 3, but right there, it's definitely in my top 5, because we got to be looking to the future in all of this. And I saw, back to the conversation earlier, the energy and enthusiasm. And when I think about that being a portion of economic development, because everything we just talked about is a portion of economic development, and I think we're going to see more enthusiasm and energy, and I want to capitalize on that. I want that. I'm excited about that. So I'm excited where this conversation too is going to take us.
It's like there's something pent up in the planning and zoning department. What else are they interested in? I'm bringing forward more board member item agenda requests here.
I'm good.
Anything to wrap, I guess, do we want to wind down that conversation?
That's usually Omari's job. He bailed on us.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll continue to talk now that we know where you generally are from a priority standpoint. We're using this as our plan moving forward that was approved back in January. We'll talk among staff and figure out what we feel needs to be done in order to get it some legs and get us making progress on it, and come back with any proposal to the board in terms of how we support that activity.
Yeah. Sounds good. All right, we'll move on to our Center Region Council of Governments reports, and we'll start with the Lucy Committee.
Yeah, so the big takeaway is, we talked about it a lot, but I think the major takeaway, that's gonna likely guide a lot of future discussions is, ARL moving to Innovation Park. Now they don't have like an I don't think I'm ambushing anybody with this. Like, is this something that's been talked about? Okay.
No.
Yeah. The question I asked during the meeting was, well, what's the plan for the tax parcels once y'all leave? And so, as we're talking about land use and economic development, this is part of their 50-year plan. Their plan is to, like, as these buildings come offline, to transition over, contingent on the expansion of the regional growth boundary, which that's what's going to be coming forth to the general forum. So they're looking at relocate it over to Innovation Park. Unclear, what our IRD district would look like as a result of that. And so, I like I said, I think that's the big takeaway. Other than that, comp plan updates. There was a pump station in Meeks Lane. Basically, they're installing this pump station, and it's going to take away 3 others, transition them over to gravity wells, which is pretty cool. I learned more about conveying sewage, which I don't know. That is pretty cool, actually. So, that's all I got.
If I recall from that, we did bring that up in executive committee today, and it will come to general forum in March and then go back to the municipalities where the public will get to weigh in on it, and then we eventually do vote on that. Good. I too have been following that ARL thing. I've kind of been thinking about it broadly, but understanding there is properties in Ferguson Township, and what is going to become of those after they leave. Are they going to be university properties, or will they maybe be let go and be retransformed? As I think it does give the township a good long-term futuristic opportunity, depending on what evolves over land use and building demands in the next 50 years.
And I will say I'm forgetting his name, but he mentioned, he was like, Penn State has a habit of sitting on property, not doing anything with it, so we'll keep you updated, is what his response was. So, it's not an unheard problem. Like, they took my question seriously, so that's good.
Any questions for Mr. White? Mr. Keogh's got a question, so you get ready.
All right.
Don't be afraid to ask him.
Just to follow up with what Mr. White said, I have been representing the township on the Center Region Planning Commission, and 2 items in their last meeting were very specific to what you just talked about, one of them being the ARL transition process, in discussing that at the regional meeting. And I didn't ask you guys ahead of time. However, I will tell you that I suggested to the Penn State representative, who also sits on the Center Region Planning Commission, that as the university transitions from buildings in Ferguson Township out to Innovation Park, and we may be talking 30 years here. We're not talking about, next year them pulling out, but that there be a partnership with the township, theoretically staff, in terms of backfilling those buildings, either by other university activities and the university continuing to be in those buildings, or if not, helping to backfill so that Ferguson Township isn't stuck with a group of empty buildings, that it be a partnership. And I did publicly state that in the Planning Commission meeting, the Regional Planning Commission meeting, without asking your permission. It just seemed to be reasonable that since the discussion was there, the opportunity was there, that I do that. The other item just so you know, and the Planning Commission talked about this, is the data center option and the data center issue. And I believe the Planning Commission is going to talk some about that at their next meeting. We do feel that that's something that was brought up at the regional level because of College Township, and they're adding data centers to their zoning ordinance, and none of us in the region currently have data centers listed in our land use ordinances, and that there seems to be a priority there. So, thank you.
Thank you for jogging my memory there, Mr. Keogh. As I was talking about this, I'm like, I've heard this somewhere else, and it's from watching the Planning Commission meetings. Any other questions for Mr. White? If not, next was public safety. Any questions? I believe that was Omari.
That's Omari.
Okay. Otherwise, we can send him the questions. The cost for leaving the meeting early. If not, we'll go to Finance Committee.
So I want to direct everyone's attention to the big thing, which is the last item that we talked about, which is the fund balance policy. So there is a fund balance policy that is coming out. The next steps are laid out in the report. And essentially in February, the executive summary and annotation is going to be available for the Finance Committee. Then the Finance Committee will likely move it to the Executive Committee in March. We don't want to go ahead and try and shoehorn anything into the February General Forum meeting. Things are already packed.
Yes.
So then from there, hopefully it'll go from Exec Committee to the municipalities for comment on or about the 17th of March. So I believe that is St. Patrick's Day. That is the day that we can expect it coming back to the municipalities for comment. And then until the General Forum presentation on approximately March 23rd. So there's only about a week there. That's when we would expect to see a presentation, not a vote, presentation. This is what the fund balance policy is. This is how much time the Finance Committee has spent with the agency directors and others doing it. And then we'd seek adoption in April. April 27th. So there's still that time for the municipalities to weigh in, et cetera. Don't have a lot of the specifics there, but I wanted to at least put us all on the same page as what we would expect about the fund balance policy review.
We tentatively, from your email and that timeline, I have it for April 3rd, which sounds like would be enough time to get them comments for the April 27th vote.
I would say so, and we can probably confirm that over the next week or so.
Okay.
Again, we were a little, I'm sorry. Okay. Yeah, we were a little loose in the dates and the milestones, but I believe that would work, and I appreciate again the forethought to put it on. So thank you.
Okay. I was going to say we do have that lined up as a board agenda item, so we'll get to have a discussion on that. So, any questions for finance? If not, executive committee had met today. Everything is all set for. The only thing I will mention, the resolution that we had discussed in general forum on reforming ICE to protect constitutional rights, that did not get a vote today in executive committee, so it will not go forward to general forum. I found out that there were other municipalities that have talked about it since the last general forum meeting, and there seemed to be a theme amongst municipalities. Is this a general forum thing, or is this to be kept to the municipality? And there seemed to be alignment that it was to be kept to the municipalities. There was also, again, the concern of just simply bringing forward a resolution. It seems like there is a lot more support, and even someone that did get some feedback from our local community of wanting to see us just more have a plan in place if there was to be some type of activity in in the area that, would protect our residents. So they weren't in favor of resolution, but just more of a plan. So leave it at that. Any questions?
No, but if I may,
Yeah.
I just wanted to bring up that I was asked to be on an ad hoc committee for COG. It's the Parks and Library Ad Hoc Committee. I think this is part of the shifting of committees and downsizing, et cetera. We haven't had a meeting yet, but as it comes, I will let staff know so that it can get added onto our COG committee reports when I have that meeting. I think the next one is end of March. But
Yes, thank you for sharing that. Now my memory is jogging me. I think it was the COG chair that got to appoint those, because I was like, we didn't talk about those in this meeting, but I think it was the COG chair that got to appoint the members. So that makes sense now. So feel free to send whatever information you have over to Jenna when you get it, and let us know if there's anything that we as a board need to dissect. We can see what we can do to get that on the agenda if we need to discuss anything in depth. So.
yes.
Right. If nothing else, any communications to the board?
Yes.
Mr. White.
So somebody brought it to my attention that our municipality on social media doesn't have comments turned on.
Oh, yes.
And giving my feedback on that as well. Like that's. We could probably have a discussion about that at a future date, but comments turned off basically deprioritizes things, because that's how the capital T, capital A algorithm works. It engagement drives engagement. So if there's no engagement, that you could actually be encountering an issue with people not getting news updates as a result of it. But they brought that to my attention. That's what we talked about. And then the other thing that was brought to my attention was the issue about snowdrift on Whitehall, and they were bringing up snow fences as well.
Yes.
Which 50 degrees today, so less of an issue today. But not saying like they were encountering some issues. So yeah, that's all I got.
And I too got information on the communications regarding the social media commenting. It's my understanding our social media channels are kind of designed more for information. Also, there has been a lot, since we first launched those social media channels, there has been a bit of evolution in right to know law when it comes to social media activities. And we are expected to maintain a uniformed approach with that. And at one point, the best course of action was to just shut off commenting altogether. And if there is anyone that wants to interact with the township, it's best done through official channels, whether that's Citizens Request Center, picking up the phone, emailing staff or to supervisors. Those seem to be the few channels that we right now are definitely monitoring and responding to the best, whereas social media has kind of proven to not necessarily be always the best engagement platform, especially if you're looking for a resolution or a further discussion from someone representing the township. So
Sorry, I was gonna say I recognize there's a lot of nuance with it, but that was just I was just letting you know, that's my thoughts on the matter as well. So yeah.
Any other communications to the board? If not, there was 3 calendar items.
Sorry, she's getting really excited over there, Patty.
That's how I call it, agenda item 11. So, and I believe there will be information forthcoming on our website, but there will be the Kaboom Playground Design Day on Saturday, April 25th at Autumnwood Park, and then the Arbor Day celebration will be April 25th at Autumnwood Park. I actually saw our urban forester here in the meeting earlier, so I would definitely keep that date in mind, because I imagine our urban forester will bring some of the township's best arbor care toys that you'll want to get to see in person. And then August 13th through the 15th will be the Kaboom Playground Build Days. And again, there'll be more information coming on that. But if you are looking for some volunteer service or community service work, some good dates to keep in mind, check out in the future. So if nothing else, item number 11.
Motion to adjourn.
All right, we're adjourned. Have a good evening, everyone.
Thank you.